Oh boy, and never did I think this would be my first video topic for my big comeback, but hey, here we are. I don't really know if we're gonna count this as my comeback. Trust me, I've got it all figured out what's going on there. This is kind of a little video that I wanted to make because this is a topic that is very recent that I think deserves to be spoken about because it relates to me and I want to make people aware of it. So yeah. Allow me to set the stage. On October 4th, 2025, the YouTuber KinoFlex, also known by his real name Jack Kentner, attacked my financial situation simply for committing the unforgivable sin of accidentally throwing him under the bus when trying to debunk false claims made against my good friend and fellow YouTuber SK. What would transpire in the following 20 hours can be described as nothing short of insanity. Fasten your seatbelts, because it's going to be a wild ride. What initially started as just trying to understand why he would immediately attack a very serious situation over something so benign, soon evolved into a full-blown interrogation in which he was asked why he would willingly allow a known pedophile into his Discord server.
Let's begin.
So for starters, who is KinoFlex? KinoFlex, also known under the names Pebbleplack and or his real name Jack Kentner, is a YouTuber who specializes in creating reviews related to recently released film and television. He also has created a multitude of videos responding to other YouTubers and their own video essays. For some additional context that's very, very important, Jack Kentner is a far-right conservative, and he has amassed an audience that is largely made up of far-right conservatives. This is important. Not long ago, Jack created a mini-series of videos responding to another YouTuber by the name of the Birdman. He responded to his Ironheart video. So for some additional context to Birdman, he is a left-wing liberal and a person of color. You see why Jack's audience being right-wing conservatives is important now? As you may assume, Jack's comment section was filled with some nasty insults hurled towards Birdman's way. And this is kind of where our story truly begins. On October 4th, 2025, Birdman made a tweet showing some of these comments and directly called out Jack for it, which, by the way, we're going to call him Jack, but just so you know, for the rest of the video, anytime I'm talking about Jack, I am referring to KinoFlex. Someone replied to Birdman's tweet saying, "I can't believe SK actually likes this guy. Talk about a rare but massive L." Birdman responded to this saying, "Well, that's likely because SK is a moron too. All these guys keep my name in their mouths on Discord. They have no idea the screenshots I have." For context, SK, who is my friend, is another media review YouTuber. And also to point this out, nobody in our circle really discusses Birdman. In fact, SK does not even have a negative opinion of the guy. He's just indifferent to him. So, I'm not entirely sure what Birdman is yapping about when he's saying that he's got screenshots and stuff. They're probably old. That'd be my guess, because as a mod in SK's Discord server, I barely see Birdman talked about. Just wanted to get that out of the way. Now, Jack saw this tweet, and he sent it in SK's Discord server, which, as I just stated, I am a mod in. He claimed Birdman is obsessed with SK, and I kind of took issue with that and how definitive Jack was when talking about it, because if just looking at the OG tweet, SK was never brought up in the original tweet. SK was only brought up after someone mentioned him. Birdman then started talking about SK, and yes, I point out now, the way Birdman talked about SK was rather obsessive. I just felt it was unfair to call him obsessed at that point, and I also pointed out that even discussing this tweet is already proving Birdman's point about us keeping his name in our mouths. I was quickly corrected regarding Birdman being obsessed by SK himself, and yeah, Birdman is actually rather obsessed with SK, but I still stood strong on the point that we only prove him right by talking about him. Just to try and put a neat bow on things, I responded to Birdman's tweet respectfully explaining that we do not in fact keep his name in our mouths. However, in my response, I inadvertently and accidentally threw Jack under the bus by mentioning that he was the only one to talk about Birdman recently, and how I had given him pushback for it. When Jack saw these tweets, I initially assumed that he would be like, okay, but instead, he proceeded to say, "Crazy how you're spending your time tattletelling, and you wonder why you have to e-beg like Colin." Okay, that's really crazy, you're probably thinking. So, what on earth is Jack talking about? Well, allow me to explain. So, for starters, who is Colin and how did he e-beg? So, Colin is a former friend of SK who, after they cut ties, eventually ruined the engine in his car through no fault of his own. I don't remember the specifics, but just like, he is the reason that his engine got fucked up. Now, Colin's only source of income comes from YouTube. He does not have an actual 9-to-5 or anything like that. Maybe that's changed since this incident, I'm not too sure. I highly doubt it, though. He asked his YouTube audience if they could help him donate to get his engine fixed. Basically, Colin was asking his audience to help him out of a situation that was entirely his own fault. Now, in what way was I e-begging? So, long story short, I work a part-time job at a Walmart store. During this pay period, I'm not getting as many hours as I would like, and as a result, I am getting less money than what I need. I pay for some bills, sometimes groceries, and sometimes new clothing. So the only real non-essential expenses I pay for consistently are subscription services, to which money is usually always put aside for. Now, in order for me to make up for lost hours that I need, I decided to ask on Twitter if anybody would be willing to donate a couple dollars from my PayPal while I get art commissions and a Patreon, which is now set up. Simply so I wouldn't have to ration out my banquet meals. Just basically, what I mean by that is just make my life a little bit easier. Maybe not have to stress about money as much. You get the picture. The idea was that it would be like donating to a streamer, just a few dollars to say thanks for what I do. However, why couldn't I just ask for more hours at work? Well, as a part-time employee, I can only get so many hours. And also, if a shift has too many people working that night, I can't take that shift. I'm just not going to be able to come in. If I'm not getting good time as a part-time employee, why don't I just go full-time? Well, there's two reasons for that. One, I have actually asked about that. Currently, I can't get full-time since there's already 5 full-time employees on my team at Walmart, and the second reason is something I've kind of avoided talking about publicly, but I'll keep this very brief. My mom currently has a damaged hip that makes it difficult for her to walk, so I am basically her primary caretaker at the moment until she can get it fixed. As a result, nights when I could go to work are sometimes spent at home looking after her and helping her around the house, simply so she doesn't have to take the risk of falling and being able to easily get up. And unfortunately, despite my best efforts, it still happens on both nights that I have been here and nights I haven't been at home. So, Colin and I's situation, our two situations are very different, as you can tell. Despite how insulted I was by Jack's comments, I was still willing to recognize that this wasn't a big deal because it really wasn't. I apologized multiple times for accidentally throwing him under the bus, and I even deleted my replies to Birdman. After that, I explained to the best of my ability just why my situation was different from Colin and why it was incredibly fucked up to even mention my financial situation in the first place. Instead of recognizing his mistakes and perhaps even apologizing, which I never wanted an apology to begin with because I knew it wouldn't be sincere, but still, an apology would have been appreciated, he decided to pull the tried and true, I ain't reading all that. Annoyed, I just went and kicked him from the SK server. If he's not going to listen to reason, then he has no place in SK's community. Now, after kicking him, I called him out on Twitter. Put a pin in that, it'll be important in a minute. Now, while all this is going on, SK was actually hosting a live stream with our friends PJ and Comic Legend. These are Disagreement Day streams. Basically, you can join a voice call in a server, you'll be drug in, and if you have a disagreement with any sort of media takes SK has, you can talk about them. It's an ID he got from the amazing Lucas. I say all that to point out, it's a public stream with stuff from a public server. Anyone can join, and yeah. He initially offered to bring Jack and I on to discuss everything that was going on before I kicked him and before I made my call-out post. But I had declined because, for one, I was at work, and also because, like I said, it really wasn't that big of a deal at that point. And, yeah. I simply just apologized to Jack and deleted my replies to Birdman. I said this. However, not too long after I kicked him, SK decided he wanted to bring Jack on to confront him about the whole attacking my financial situation thing. And once again, he offered to bring me on. Initially, I declined again, but not long after they started discussing it with Jack, I decided to come on anyways and mostly just listen in while I was working and chime in where it was important. You can actually go look at the VOD on YouTube and see the entire confrontation. It'll be linked in the description below. So it took about an hour and 15 minutes of trying to explain to him why he was in the wrong, and Jack trying to explain why he was justified, which he wasn't, to get an apology. Now, Jack's justification was that I had apparently supported one of Colin's jokes he made, saying that Jack would lose job opportunities, and I assume he's referring to some sort of debate that was about the moral and legal implications of lolly and about whether or not cartoon pornography featuring children should be labeled as child porn and therefore it be illegal. And in this debate, it's to my understanding that Jack tried to argue that lolly wasn't pedophilia, which, trust me, that part may not seem important. We will get back to this whole debate that happened later. So, now I had never supported those jokes by Colin. Maybe I had made a joke at Jack's expense, but like, I was mostly neutral on that. I never really liked Jack before SK cut ties with Colin, which after Jack started to act like a fairly normal dude that I actually did begin to respect for a little while. But before then, I just really saw him as a lol cow. But to be truthful, I really don't know what he's talking about. I don't remember. I don't understand this, because earlier in the discussion, he had simply referred to me as SK's mod, like he doesn't know me that well. Yet now he's bringing up an old-ass event that I apparently supported, like he knew who I was. That doesn't add up. So, that's not even mentioning that Jack had previously also said that he and I aren't friends, and like we barely know each other. Which is pretty much true. And like I said, after an hour and 15 minutes of this mess, Jack finally gave me an apology where he somehow managed to make it about him, pointing out how it was wrong for him to make fun of my financial situation. And actually, you know what, fuck it. I'll just show you the clip of this half-hearted apology.
Was that so hard, everybody?
So you apologize for attacking his financial situation?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, okay, bro.
Sure, I apologize for going after your financial situation. That was my bad. I shouldn't have done that. And the same way, I don't like it when people like bring up that Colin video he made about me and laughing about like how it may potentially cost me job opportunities. I don't think it's right for me to use that as justification to mock someone else. You're right. I was a hypocrite. I shouldn't have done that, and I apologize. Happy?
All right.
This is an apology that is very clearly half-hearted, and it's clear that he didn't get to the issue. Wasn't like that he was a hypocrite or anything. He failed to understand that he should not have brought up a very serious situation over little internet beef. I didn't even say that I accepted his apology. I just said that I stood by my apology. Now, after that, both Jack and I left the call, and I continued to work. However, less than 2 hours later, I was made aware that less than 45 minutes after Jack had apologized, he seemingly retracted his apology, and he was now attacking me once more on Twitter. SK then got both of us back into the call, which, need I remind you, was still on a live stream. As it turns out, after he left the call, he found my call-out post on Twitter, and he had for some reason assumed that when I said I had deleted my replies to Birdman, that I meant I would also be deleting my call-out post, which this is not true. In fact, I had honestly forgotten about the call-out post to begin with, and hypothetically, even if I hadn't forgotten about the call-out post, and it never came up in the original confrontation, had he just reached out to me privately and been like, hey, I'm not sure if you meant to keep this one up, but did you mean to not delete this one? If he just came to me privately, I would have deleted it. But in this second confrontation, he just started crashing out like crazy, and it's really funny. I'm just gonna say, go watch the VOD. There's gonna be a second link in the description below the first one. It's time codes to get you to the different confrontations. The first two confrontations were in the same stream on SK's channel. There'll be some of the first links you'll see in the description. But in this second confrontation, he called me a failure to my mother, and all the while, I was barely saying anything. I just was going to allow him to dig his grave even deeper. Now, my friend SK, we have a friend named Dom. They had since joined the call since the prior confrontation, and they pointed out how this one-sided shouting match was reminiscent of this image. Jack was I think that's a leopard, and I was the chimp. You know, that's kind of where the video thumbnail comes from, in case you couldn't guess. Now, this second confrontation had no resolution. You're probably wondering why, and that's because apparently Jack's phone died, and when he joined back, I was just kind of tired of it all and just left. And to be honest, I do kind of doubt his phone actually died. I think he just got fed up with being told that he was the bad guy and just decided to leave the call and come back when he could divert the conversation away from our beef. That's kind of what I could get from that. Now, I left the call around 4 a.m. my time. At 7:39, he made an announcement in the Disagreement Day stream Discord server, which was a public server anyone could join, by the way. This announcement that he put out said, "Last time I'm going to address this, either put up or shut up," and attached was a YouTube post where Jack said the following. Just going to leave a quick comment regarding the big disagreement on Disagreement Day. First off, I do have gripes with SK's community, who constantly act in bad faith with me and trying to stir up trouble for no reason. I have had examples of needless drama that involve me getting blamed for things someone else posted, getting asked loaded questions implying that I'm something I'm not. And now, I'm getting chastised for not reacting well to being unrightfully characterized as obsessed by another one of his idiot fans for bringing up how the Birdman obsesses over SK, which he even acknowledges is true. Every single time the person who initiated the drama is given a pass, and I get treated as the bad guy because the person who initiated the conflict was a friend of SK's or the people involved. It's blatant double standards and communicates that there is never any intention of me being allowed into the community. All it leads to is me being piled on in 1v6 calls where no answer is acceptable, and I'm frankly tired of it. Even in the end of the stream, you had people baselessly claiming that I'm somehow acting in bad faith in my response videos to the Birdman, when they never even watched the show being discussed. SK can give the excuse, "Well, I never said those things," but I'm also never explicitly defended because it's seen as funny and entertaining. If you're going to make it clear that I'm not welcome within the community, that's perfectly fine. I can do without the drama. To interject, this whole victimization thing that Jack is doing about SK never defending him is factually untrue, and later on, Jack would admit that he was wrong to say this. Just wanted to put that out there, back to the community post. Secondly, I'm just going to be completely honest and say that I don't believe the guy e-begging, which is me by the way, for money is going towards something serious. People who e-beg online are known to lie about their circumstances all the time. If he were actually trying to earn money that wasn't for dumb garbage and actually for his handicapped mother, he wouldn't act all nonchalant about it and call it e-begging in the first place. You'd say that you were trying to earn money for your handicapped mom. You would also post on serious donation sites besides Twitter. Look at this post and tell me that this is what someone in a serious financial situation would say, because I wouldn't describe it as e-begging or use a goddamn Squidward gif for something serious like that. Literally, no one gets that impression from this. And here he attaches a link to a now deleted post that I made where I'm talking about requesting donations. Now, him saying that I was trying to get donations for my mom, we're going to get back to that in a second. Back to the community post. Colin is a trash person, but even he at the very least was honest and upfront with where the money he's asking for was going, even if it was towards something stupid like a car he didn't need. If I get verification from the mom of what the money is going towards, groceries, medical bills, electricity, etc., I'm prepared to give money towards her directly in the form of $200 to $300. If he's unwilling to do that, then sorry, I don't believe whatever scam you're peddling. It's the most straightforward way of clarifying that the money is actually going where you say it is. I don't believe that a guy with a mom like this isn't receiving some sort of welfare to provide for her living standards, which, pause, we do receive that, and that's not your business, Jack. But this specific injury, I probably should have mentioned, is a temporary one, so therefore we don't receive any benefits from it. Or that she's solely reliant on a dumb kid working part-time at Walmart or whatever. Again, I'm open to being proven completely wrong on this, but still willing to resolve it this way because my money would still be going towards a good cause in helping a handicapped mother. Otherwise, don't bring this up to me, I guess he had a typo there, expecting me to regard the guy as anything other than the very same grifters you guys point and laugh at on a daily basis. Either put up or shut up. Yeah, somehow, Jack had gotten the impression that I was claiming that money donated to me would go towards helping out my mom. However, because of how nonchalant my tweet was, and the fact that I didn't even mention it, he concluded that I was using my mom as a front to scam people out of money. Now, not only did I never set out to scam anyone, nowhere in my original tweet did I ever imply money was going towards my mom. So even if I did set out to scam people out of money, which, once again, I did not, I never intended to use my mom as a front for said scam. Now, my mom was only ever used as a reasoning for why I couldn't get a full-time position at my job. My mom does not need money. I asked for donations for myself to help make my life a little bit easier. Maybe that's not an acceptable reason to ask the internet strangers for money. That's honestly for you to decide, but I just want to stress, I never set out to scam anybody. Let me make one thing clear here. If you were deceived into thinking the money would be going towards my mom by myself or Jack, I want to deeply and profusely apologize. It was never my intention to deceive anyone. I would never try to deceive anybody out of money, and I tried my best to be as upfront as possible in my original tweet, but I suppose during my defenses for my e-begging, some things might have gotten muddied up a bit. That's the only thing I can come up with, and that's entirely my bad. It is because of the potential deception, and just because I wanted Jack to just shut the fuck up and leave me alone, I decided to make the decision to delete the tweet, and thankfully I deleted the tweet before anyone had actually donated anything to my PayPal. Thank fucking God, or else I would have been in a lot of trouble there. And I rushed out of Patreon, which you can go join now. However, Jack was still adamant that I was trying to scam people, and I think I figured out why after I deleted my tweet. Let's just be aware, this is merely speculation about what I'm talking about. It is likely no shock for you to learn that Mr. Kentner has a fragile ego. The moment I spoke about him in a way which offended him, he immediately went on the attack instead of just asking me to delete my replies to Birdman. However, that's not the only instance of this happening. On September 11th, 2025, an individual came into SK's server and made the claim that Jack had lied about an individual wishing death upon himself and a friend of his, who was found to actually be a very obvious bigot. Not that that's relevant, just wanted to point that out. And instead of immediately defending himself by saying that he wasn't lying, Jack chose to say, "Go fuck yourself for saying I was lying. I still have the now deleted comment from the unhinged individual wishing death on either me or Josh. I never lied about anything, so let's just get this straight." Instead of first denying the accusation brought towards him, Jack felt the need to make attacking the accuser his priority. That just screams fragile ego to me. And if you need more proof, after getting into a little squabble with Sheev Talks on Twitter, Jack felt it necessary to attack Sheev for asking money to help with medical bills when he had a serious health problem arise.
I also find Sheev's callous disregard for human life to be incredibly ironic, considering he's relying on other people keeping himself alive. Guys, don't have sympathy for innocent people I hate dying, but please, oh please, have some sympathy for me because I don't deserve to die.
Does that sound a little bit familiar? You notice now, it's become a pattern that when someone offends him, Jack chooses to go on the attack. And when you take into consideration that Jack chose to victimize himself in his community post, it is clear as day, to me at least, that Jack suffers from a fragile ego. I believe Jack and his fragile ego could not live with the fact that he was objectively in the wrong for attacking my financial situation, so he had to grasp at straws to find a way for him to somehow be justified in his behavior. He looked at my original tweet, saw how nonchalant it was, and then assumed that I was attempting to raise money for my mom, despite the fact that was never implied in the original tweet. I believe Jack deluded himself into thinking I was trying to scam people so I could get non-essential material things, which is obviously not true, as I've explained. He moved the goalpost because he couldn't stand being the bad guy. I want to point out again, that is just speculation, but I think it's a likely possibility. And after pointing out this movement of the goalpost, it was agreed upon to move on. However, that's not where our story ends, as you can tell. There's a little bit left on the runtime. Remember that debate that I mentioned where Mr. Jack Kentner tried to argue lolicon wasn't pedophilia? Well, here's where that comes into play. First and foremost, why was Jack defending lolicon in that debate? Well, Prior to that debate, SK and Colin, along with another one of SK's friends, Comic Legend, I think he got mentioned earlier, accused a former friend named Arachnid Youth of being a pedophile because he made and continues to make cartoon porn that in many times involves characters that are canonically minors. Arachnid Youth tried to argue that it wasn't pedophilia since they were just drawings of fictional characters, and he now claims that the characters in the porn he makes are all 18 plus, which is a stupid defense. If it looks like a child, it's a child. It's that simple. If you have to age up a character to be an adult so you can make porn of them, that is still pedophilic in nature because you are trying to find a legal way around making porn of a child. Arachnid Youth is a pedophile. There is a full video on Comic Legends group channel, League Entertainment, that goes over this. I will link that as well. In the description below, you will find that video. It is very long, however, it is definitely worth your time if you need more context for Arachnid Youth. Now, Jack doesn't think that Arachnid Youth is a pedophile, or he used to. So, he went out of his way to defend Arachnid Youth initially. However, he eventually claimed that he was misinformed on the matters of what actually went down with Arachnid Youth. Actually, wait, no. I have a clip that where he explains what the deal was with that himself. So here you go.
You literally conceded you were wrong on the whole Ultimate Joker Arachnid Youth thing.
I said I was wrong to get involved in that because there were other things I didn't know about Arachnid Youth. That isn't.
So as you can see here, he claimed that he was no longer associated with Arachnid Youth in his community. The key word here being claimed, because we'll come back to this. Now, in this lolicon debate, apparently, I wasn't there, so I'm not too sure. Jack's opponent was an individual named XO Pokery. Now, even after Jack went back on his defenses for Arachnid Youth, Pokery was still adamant that Jack was a pedophile. After we agreed to drop the discussion of me allegedly being a scammer, Pokery chimed in to say that Jack was a terrible person, and another person told them to just let it go, to which Pokery responded with, "Oh, leave the manga pedophile alone," obviously mocking that person. And I pointed out that I didn't think Jack was a pedophile, so Pokery pointed out that if you defend lolicon and child porn, then you are a pedophile, which I do agree with. I just want to make that perfectly clear. I pointed out that he walked back on his defenses, and then Pokery asked when he walked back. Now, I couldn't remember when he said this, and obviously I was hoping that Jack might have some evidence of him saying that he walked back. So I just pinged Jack and told him that the ball was in his court on the matter. What followed next would end up being the most insane turn ever. This is genuinely hilarious. So Jack must not have seen where I was defending him, because he automatically assumed I was siding with Pokery, which, by the way, I wasn't. He proceeded to crash out, told Pokery to go to hell. He called me a scammer, a failure to my mother, and he said I was going to hell, as if he's any authority on that matter. Now, I found that very funny, and a back and forth between Pokery and Jack started, so I just decided, let's get him in a VC. I asked Dom to record it, to which they agreed to do. Now, I pinged everyone in the Disagreement Day server, and I told them that if they wanted to listen in, or if they had something to say, they'd be pulled into a private VC where the debate would be taking place. And then this here begins the next chapter of our story, what I like to consider the downfall of Jack Kempner. This debate, this third confrontation, it went on for over 4 hours. And it became very evident very quickly that Jack was once again defending Lolly and CP, proving that he hadn't changed one bit like he claimed. However, not everyone was so immediately convinced that Jack was a pedophile or a pedophile defender like Pokery had claimed. Another friend of SK's, Southpaw, who I'd like to point out did not like Jack at all and still does not like Jack at all, had agreed to play devil's advocate for Jack, basically serving as like a sort of public defender for him. Feeling perhaps that Jack was just still misinformed like he had initially claimed, or he simply wasn't illustrating what he meant correctly. Now, I want to make it perfectly clear to everyone watching, Southpaw is a good dude, and he did not defend Jack because he agreed with him. Southpaw simply defended Jack because he felt that Jack could not properly articulate his own defenses towards the accusations that were brought towards him. Southpaw actually did do a good job, if you ask me, but that's part of the problem with it. People were beginning to think that Jack was, in fact, not guilty of being a pedo or a pedo defender. However, I personally felt vehemently that Jack was in fact a pedo defender. The thing is, I just needed a smoking gun to make the others in the debate believe so as well. Luckily for me, the smoking gun was right in Jack's own public server. Please look at this clip.
Dom, getting him in here right fucking now.
Okay, hold up.
Get him in.
All right. Go on.
Okay, I'm gonna stream it because I don't have a recording device, so just give me a second.
What's happening?
Hi, Nymph. Hello.
Who's this?
Oh,
Everyone tune into the stream. Tune in.
Oh.
what the fuck is this guy? All right, so here we have Kino Flex Hangout, and there's messages from a certain someone named Zombie Youth. Why don't you have a seat?
Okay.
Why don't you have a seat, Jack?
Okay.
Why is he there?
Why is he in the server?
Why
Because
is he
I allow
there?
anyone in my server open invite. It's open invite. You can join
He's
it right now.
pedo. What?
That's a pedophile,
You
bro.
can still ban people. What?
Wait, you're okay with having an actual known pedophile in the server?
That's
No, answer
An
that
actual
right
no
now.
pedophile.
that's concerning. Yeah. Yes.
Yes, he's
I
very much
let
well known.
anyone in my server. I let anyone in my server.
Dude, what the
So
fuck?
Why is he
wait,
here?
you're willing to let known pedophiles be in your server, so we are actively endangering people.
Alright, I need to explain this. How did we get there? So an individual in SK's server had claimed to have seen Arachnid Youth, a known pedophile, and someone who Jack had claimed to have disassociated with in Jack's public Discord server. They provided some screenshots, but there was nothing in the images which implied that it was Jack's server. Fortunately, my friend named C-Nymph offered to join Jack's server and find any evidence of Arachnid Youth being there. Thankfully, all they had to do was use the server search bar to see if Arachnid was in the server, and guess what? He was. Satisfied with our findings, we immediately joined into the debate VC, and the clip you just saw transpired. And as you could tell from the end of the clip, Jack seemingly found no issue with Arachnid Youth, a known pedophile, being in his server. In this clip I'm about to show you, just look at what he said. I added subtitles so you could probably understand what Jack was saying, since it's a little hard to hear. But just look.
Even if being a pedophile is not a written rule of your server, I feel like that should go without saying.
It's also
What the
literally
fuck?
against the
Like,
fucking
bro.
law, bro.
Like, hold on, bro, because I'm a minor. Like, what if he goes after me and shit?
Pedophile. Like,
Oh,
again,
ban
like,
him,
you
ban him,
guys
ban him.
keep on moving the goalpost. Like,
Yeah. He asked how a known pedophile that he knew that he had made the point to disassociate with, he asked how this known pedophile was a pedophile. Another one of his defenses to allowing Arachnid Youth in a server was that the server was 18 plus. Now, a friend of mine, John2008, he asked Jack if he actually checked the ages of members frequently, to which Jack said he kind of just looks over the profiles of. However, John2008 immediately debunked this by revealing that he had been in Jack's server and his age was never verified. And he was like, never kicked or anything. Like, just look at this clip.
Hey, Jack, can I ask you a question?
Okay, what?
So, you say your server is like 18 plus, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you like ask the members how old they are? Like, do any background?
I tend to just like look at their profiles and judge.
That's not enough.
Okay, because I was in your server for a little while, and I believe my profile says that I was 16. I'm currently 17 now, so I was in your server for a little while.
I also just want to point out that it's in his name. It's John2008. There's no way John should have been able to get into the server if Jack was actually verifying ages like he claimed. So, for pretty much everyone in that VC, that was pretty much the final nail in the coffin. Here's a couple other nails in that coffin. He got rid of Nymph from his server and called them weird for coming into the server and then showing it off. Yes, Jack did in fact say Nymph was weird, as opposed to the known pedophile, who, might I mention, was still yet to be removed from his server. It took nearly 20 minutes. In fact, I'll say this. I have a clip that goes 16 minutes and 22 seconds, where it's pretty much the entire thing. Jack is refusing to remove Arachnid Youth, the known pedophile. Eventually, Jack does cave in the clip. It'll be included as its own separate thing. But it still took almost 20 minutes. Like, not to mention that during this time, Jack, like I said, Jack asked how Arachnid Youth was a predator. Like, you saw that clip. This ensured that any goodwill towards Jack was completely destroyed, and even Southpaw had to stop playing devil's advocate. Everyone, and I mean everyone, turned on Jack in this VC. Now, I'm going to point out, still really nobody thought that there was any credence to the idea that Jack was a child predator or a pedophile. At the very most, and the worst that people thought was that he was just a pedo defender, which I think it's fair to say he is. Now, later on, SK would be made aware of what happened. He wasn't there for this third confrontation. He had since gone to bed at that point. He would reason with Jack in a fourth VC that and he convinced Jack that I was not in fact attempting to scam anybody. Jack would make a retraction, and it reads as follows. Spoke with SK over recent events, and we came to an agreement that at a certain point, creators can have no reasonable control over their audience. So I'm deleting my previous post on the subject, saying he should have done more, or implying that he never defended me in the past. That being said, I'm still stepping away from any future collaborations with him for the time being. His audience clearly has a problem with me, as it has become a continuous trend, and I don't want the continuous drama in my life. As for the guy e-begging, it has been resolved that he wasn't talking about getting money for his mom, but to make it clear, him doing that is not a scam. He didn't appreciate my mocking of e-begging, as I tend to do with Colin, which gave me the impression that he was trying to convince me that he was attempting to earn money that was crucial for his current situation. I find it ridiculous to act offended over being mocked for e-begging over something they themselves said was unimportant. But that was what escalated the beef, and it was a sensitive subject for them. Then I regret bringing it up at all. Again, tired of the whole situation, and just want to step away from it all for a good time. Have a happy Sunday evening. So, even in his retraction, Jack Kentner is still not capable of taking accountability, nor does he understand why I took issue with him attacking my financial situation in the first place. He's right. My situation really isn't that big of a deal. I'm going to be able to recover from it. But the problem that I have with it, and the problem that I still have, is the fact that it was even brought up in the first place. So, there's still one question that remains. Why did Jack even attack my financial situation in the first place? And why did he do the same with Sheaves? He did it in response to his feelings getting hurt. Why did he do that? So, I've made some discoveries that were enough for me to come up with a potential theory as to this. Just want to point out, this is all, the information I'm going to share here, it's all public, and I was able to find it with simple Google searches. I am in no way attempting to dox Jack Kentner. In fact, I'm going to be as nondescript as possible to protect his privacy with some of these details. I am merely using public information to form a theory as to how he could find no issue with attacking others' financial situations. Odds are you can kind of guess what my theory is already, but we'll go into this. Once again, this is just speculation. So, according to a campus-based conservative news site that Mr. Kentner is a correspondent for, Jack either attends or has already graduated from a fairly well-known university in the United States. Now, this university is not the hardest school to get into. It has an acceptance rate of roughly 54.2%, but it has an in-state tuition of roughly $20,000 and an out-of-state tuition of roughly $40,000. Roughly 73% of the students who get accepted into the school get some form of financial aid. Because of such a high percentage with financial aid, I find it highly unlikely that Jack had his college paid for entirely through financial aid and scholarships. I also find it highly unlikely that he paid for college himself. He seems like a reasonably young guy, like right out of high school, he went straight into college. So really, I don't see where he would have had the time to raise $20,000 to $40,000. So as a result of this, I think that it is reasonable to assume that Mr. Kentner comes from a family with reasonable wealth. Enough wealth that the concept of struggling for money is fairly foreign to him. It's the only reason I can come up with as to why he's so willing to attack others for their financial problems. Because he himself may have never had to deal with such things. And, yeah. All in all, I think that Jack Kettner is a sad, pathetic little man. And his defenses for known pedophiles make him a danger to children. This video was not made out of some deep-seated hatred for the guy. It was simply made to inform people of what the man behind the KinoFlex YouTube channel has done. I hope that one day he can recognize the error in his ways and he can redeem himself. That starts with him, though. I believe that he can redeem himself and recognize the errors in his way, but that can only be done if he chooses to do it. Anyways, that's going to do it. Be sure to subscribe. Check out my Patreon, Discord server, Twitter, Instagram. Check them all out. Huge special thanks to everyone involved in this whole debacle. I'm sure we are all just ready for it to end. And it's going to end. There's one more thing that is going to be happening with KinoFlex and SK, and it's going to be a debate. It's happening later today. Be sure you subscribe to SK's channel so you can be there for that debate. It's to my understanding that SK is going to go over loosely what has happened between me and Jack before going into a video response to one of Jack's videos. And there might be some more. I'm not too sure. But just in general, see you guys later.
Jack Kettner, suck my erect 5.4-inch cock